The Australian Ghost Whisperer with Katarina Legato and James Jennings.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Australian Ghost Whisperer.
Hi everyone, welcome back for another episode.
Yeah, how you doing, Kat?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
If you're listening to us, you can't see it, but I really like your sparkly jumper.
Yeah, I've had this sparkly jumper for years.
I like it. Adds a bit of colour.
Thank you.
Considering I'm very grey.
You're very grey and your grey beanie.
Yes. Thanks for glamming up the
Glamour.
the
Someone's
vibe.
got to glam
Someone's got to do it. I'm glad
Someone
it's
has
you.
to do it. Thank you.
I've never been accused of being glamorous, Kat.
No, I know, but you're
No.
a good person. That's what counts.
Oh,
You
bless.
don't have to be glamorous
Thank
in
you.
life.
Thank you. I'm glamorous on the inside.
This is true. He's very glamorous on the inside.
That's right.
Very good person on the inside.
Oh, well, look, I'm glad we're having a laugh because
What would you like to talk about today?
it's going to be a bit of a heavy topic.
Okay, what have you got in store?
So we're going to talk about trauma and how trauma affects and relates to the entirety of humanity. So this is actually a really, really important topic. And I'm just trying to think of the best way to kick it off. But look, we may as well get weird with it. Let's get weird with it, okay? So I got a really important message about trauma during a very intense meditation session a few years ago that Katarina was at as well. And I had a very clear message kind of come to me. The kind of message that I didn't just hear it, I kind of felt it. So I understood it as a feeling and I understood it logically as well. But even having said that, it's very hard to describe because the feeling is, I can't transmit the feeling to you. I will do my best with words. So what I was told was how trauma affects every single one of us. And what I was told was since the absolute dawn of humanity, since day one, and the many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of lives that we've all had since, is that every single one of us, not some, not most, all of us, have both suffered and been the cause of trauma. All of us. No one gets off scot-free. So we've received and also been the cause of. And I think that's a really important thing for people to actually sit on it and meditate on and realise, because I think when we do, we realise that fact binds us all. And the message that I was given was that the only way humanity is going to ascend as a species and get out of this cycle of trauma that we're trapped in is to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. But in a really profound way, like in a really deep, profound way in your heart, that you let go of the trauma that's been caused to you and you forgive yourself for the trauma you may have caused. Only by doing that, it will be an action that unites us all and lets us actually drop that weight of trauma so that we can finally be free of it and ascend to the next level. So that's what I mean. It's a really huge thing to get your head around. But if you look at the way that humanity is operating, we are absolutely trapped in a cycle of trauma. There is wars, there's conflict, racism, discrimination. There's all kinds of awfulness and division. And if you even think about your personal life, sometimes when we get hurt in life and, being hurt is a form of trauma, then we might go, well, I'm going to hurt that person back. So that
Revenge.
It's revenge. So and that is a small way of describing how trauma can be inflicted to you, but then you get stuck in the cycle and you give it back, and then that person might give it back. So until we actually stop feeling like we need revenge or that we need to strike out at those people who have hurt us, we're never going to get out of it. Because look, again, war is the perfect example. So, you did this to me, I'm going to get you. Well, you did that to me, I'm going to get you. Where does it end? It doesn't end. It doesn't end because you're all...
Continues to recreate itself.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes a self-sustaining thing. So until we can get to a point where we forgive ourselves and each other for all the trauma that's been caused, it ain't going to end. So I don't know. How does that resonate with you, Kat?
Yeah, okay. So my take on trauma is that from the moment that we ascended, or descended here into the lower realm that is earth, we became traumatized because almost all of us have come from the higher realms of, either we've come from directly from the realms of God, or we've come from many other highly evolved planets, and we were perhaps either drawn into this lower 3D realm to help be of service, to bring healing, or we were trapped and drawn into this lower 3D realm, and we feel within us we feel that we have descended as a spirit into this 3D to take on this 3D body. So that journey in itself from, say, God realms or the higher realms into the lower realm, this 3D realm, is very traumatizing to the spirit, because the spirit is this infinite, highly evolved aspect of us, and it's almost like it gets squashed into this 3D body, into this very dense realm that is earth. And that is very traumatic. So that's the beginning of human trauma. Then as we, grow and multiply, we carry within us the trauma of our ancestors and, and so on and so forth, because that's within our DNA, and DNA contains memory. And that's why you hear a lot of people, as they begin to really spiritually evolve and grow, they're like, I just want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. This doesn't feel like my home. It's too hard. It's too harsh. There's a lot of parents that bring children that are having a really hard time being here. They're constantly unhappy. They're constantly depressed. They don't want to be here. It's because they feel the disconnection. That memory of the disconnection is so vivid within them that they feel that they just want to go back to where they came from. They know that this is not really my home, even though they live with the sweetest parents and they have a beautiful home and they have the best of everything. It just isn't the real. So what happens to a soul, a spirit, when it gets condensed down into this spirit, into this human form, it still retains a longing, a memory, and it could be an unconscious memory of the real, of who they really are, of the higher realms. And it's like, and so the more you develop, the more obviously that memory starts to kick in and ignite within you, that you start to feel like, you say things like, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. It doesn't feel like home. Even though I'm happy, there's nothing going on with my life. I just can't seem to fit in here. And that's the beginning of trauma. Then obviously we're born into families that, our parents raise us, and we draw in their trauma and their issues and the siblings, and then we go to school and we take on trauma of the teachers and so on and so forth. So we're always cycling into this, where we're learning, we're picking up from other people's trauma, and it's kind of adding layers on top of our own trauma. And it's only when you start to disconnect and not allow other people's emotions and actions to affect you, that you're then able to create enough sacred space around you to begin to chip away at your own traumas. But first you have to recognize what these traumas are. What is it that triggers within you? And it's really a difficult thing when you go down into, your childhood. A lot of children were very much abused as children. Most of my generation come from parents who it was quite natural that they beat us up or hit us with belts, or, the cane was, illegal in school. So I remember, kids being sent out, coming back, and their hands were red. I mean, these days they'd be arrested. But this was normal back in the days that I went to school. And this is very traumatizing. I remember seeing these kids coming back and the pain in their faces where they just received a good cane. It was like, it traumatized me, So, everywhere we look, we see the trauma, we see people suffering. We watch the news, look at the news, it's all there to traumatize us. There's all these bad things happening on earth, there's all these bad things coming our way. And so the trauma continues to grow and grow within us. And that's why now, more than ever, it's about stepping away from recognizing the trauma, but stepping away from the fear of facing it and beginning to somehow feel that we can heal our wounds, finish with this physical incarnation, and return to our true planet, return to Creator God if we choose to. And not have to feel that we're stuck here or kept here, beyond our will. Yeah, so I feel that a lot of people who are now quite evolved, that are doing the work on themselves, are really feeling themselves, they're reconnecting with their true essence, they're reconnecting to the presence of their Creator, or they're reconnecting to other benevolent spirits or people in the higher dimensions, in the higher planets, and they're able, their sacred soul family, they're reconnecting, and they're feeling that they are, by doing that, it's helping them to heal. And they're also almost like carving out a path so that once they sort of leave the physical body, that they are able to return to their true home and leave this behind. And that's why there's so much going on, because obviously, there's this battle going on, a spiritual battle where, the dark side wants to keep humanity traumatized, because then they'll never realize or wake up to the fact that they are these infinite, powerful beings. And the dark side doesn't want to lose control of humanity. So they're trying to entice them and place them under more stress and more fear. And all of this is, again, visually what you're seeing through the news, what you're seeing, going on in the world visually, so that it keeps you in this space of fear. But if you kind of push all that away and recognize your own divinity, and that you are this infinite, divine essence expression of God, then you're able to begin to heal your trauma. And as you heal your trauma, you will strengthen your connection to the stars, to where you belong, to your sacred soul family, who then will assist you in actually getting out of here and returning to your true home. But if you remain stuck in the trauma, then you're going to remain, unfortunately, disconnected from your true divine essence, and you're going to be, unfortunately, recycled back to this planet over and over and over again, until you break out of the illusion. You wake up and go, everything here is bullshit. It's an illusion. It's a system of control, of slavery. If you don't have money, you can't exist. If you don't have money, you have no reason to live anymore. Like, I've done readings for people on, loved ones on the other side that have literally committed suicide because they didn't have any more money to live on. It's disgusting that we live in a world where we have to pay to live here. So this is how we can begin to, by connecting through our spiritual practices, reconnecting to our divinity, reconnecting to our spirit, connecting to your heart, connecting to your higher self, healing the wounds. And yes, forgiveness is a big part of it, because yes, we've all had people hurt us because they're traumatized also. And yet we might look at them and say, this person has done the most rotten and horrible and unforgivable things to me, and how can I ever forgive them? And I'm not saying that you've got to forgive them to the point where you embrace them and love them, but forgive them in the way that it sets you free, that you no longer want to be thinking about them and being angry, because then that keeps you connected to them and the trauma, and you keep cycling over and over and over again. So you've got to see that this act of forgiveness is an act of letting go, is an act of I'm no longer going to be affected by the horrible things that you've done to me. I'm choosing to set myself free, and I'm choosing to enjoy my life whilst I'm here, but also begin to connect to my true sacred soul family so that I can return into the more divine and higher realms that exist outside of the 3D. So this is why it is important. But yes, we're all traumatized, absolutely. Just the fact that we are here is traumatic. I've struggled with being here on this planet. It's horrific the way we treat each other. It's horrific the way, we treat the planet, the nature, the way we treat animals. I'm sorry, but I just find that really hard to process. We lock up animals in zoos and keep them in cages just so we can entertain ourselves with them. The people lock up beautiful innocent animals, cats, monkeys, dogs, in laboratories so they can use them for testing. I mean, it can only take a traumatized human being to traumatize another being, whether it's an animal or a human, in such a way. If you don't have that trauma and you're just living through your heart, then it just would not be something you would be capable of doing. There's no reason for it. We can test in other ways. We can find different ways of doing things when we come from our heart, because then we're open to infinite possibilities and infinite opportunities of doing things differently, than abusing the planet, abusing other species. And, we have continued to abuse each other species, abuse nature, and it goes on and on and on. And now this is the critical point where Mother Earth is saying enough. And that's why we have so many challenges going on. And yes, it's bringing up everybody's fear and bringing up everybody's trauma. But it's not a punishment. It's there so that we can look at it, finally get out of the comfort zone, look at what we're doing and go, I need to frigging fix this. I need to change. I need to heal. I need to find another way to exist that is not about harming anyone else or any sentient being. We shouldn't be harming anything anymore in order to begin to heal. Because whilst we are harming another being, we have still got trauma.
Yeah, cycle of trauma continues.
Correct. And I know that this is hard to hear for many of you, but I have worked through this stuff, and I know that whilst we are acting in ways that are unloving to anyone or anything upon this earth, we still have trauma to heal within us. And there's nothing wrong with that. But please recognize that when you have healed enough of your trauma, you will fully start coming from your heart. All your decisions that you make, all that will be based from your heart, where you will be saying, what would love do? What would love choose? How can I help this person? What can I do? Can I go plant some extra trees on the earth? Can I join groups that go out and, collect the rubbish that people throw on the beaches and all these horrible, can I join groups that help clean the oceans? What can I contribute to do my part of this beautiful earth that is our home? And when you go into that space, you're going to feel so much joy, and this is also a way of healing your trauma, because you're in there, you're helping. As you heal another, as you heal the world, as you heal nature, you're healing yourself. Okay, so it's not really that hard. It's just being able to recognize that we're all traumatized to a different degree simply because we're here.
Yeah.
And that from this place, when you recognize, it's about what can I do to help myself and help my human family to begin to heal.
I'm going to go back to the topic of forgiveness, which you touched upon. And what I wanted to say was, I think that some people mistake forgiveness as a way of saying something's okay. Or it's like going, oh, that awful thing that you did to me, that I'm fine with that. That's not what forgiveness is.
Not
Forgiveness isn't saying
that
the traumatic act is okay, or you endorse it or condone it, or you're okay with it. You don't have to be okay with it.
No, absolutely. You don't have to.
Yeah,
you should not be okay with it.
You should not be okay with it. But that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is what Katerina said. It's letting go. Truly letting go.
Letting go, making your peace with it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's useless. You keep thinking about it, talking about it, being angry about it. You're still caught up in the cycle of trauma. But when you just, yes, this horrible thing has happened to me, and perhaps you've had to go through incredible amounts of healing to reconnect to your true self, because there's horrible things committed to people. People have been abused in the most horrific ways, and none of that is all right. But when you can heal enough to make your peace with it and say, I love myself enough to not give that person or give that event any more of my energy. And you're turning to the light, and you're turning to your sacred soul family to help you through it. Knowing that whatever they've done to your physical vehicle, this is something we're going to shed and leave behind. They cannot really damage your spirit. Really and truly, your spirit is divine. It is ancient. It is that powerful aspect of Creator God, and it can never really be damaged.
And the urge to seek revenge is understandable. It seems to come quite naturally for people to want to seek revenge.
That's the trauma in them, wanting to hurt because they've been hurt.
Yeah.
That's that reaction. The trauma within me, the pain body within me wants to hurt you back.
Yeah. And hence we get stuck in that endless cycle. So resisting that urge to want to strike back, resisting that urge to take revenge takes a lot of strength, but it is literally the only way out of that cycle of trauma. And it's one we've been trapped in since the dawn of time, and we're not getting out of it until we realise that when we hurt another, we hurt ourselves. Because that's what it's all about.
Well, we remain stuck. We remain stuck inside the cycle of trauma, and therefore we're not evolving. We're not getting any closer to our goal, to returning to our true home, because everything here is temporal, nothing here is permanent, and therefore we continue to reincarnate here over and over and over again. And sometimes the lessons or the teachings can become difficult. So I sort of feel as though, we're here, why not make the most of our evolution, become the greatest aspect of ourselves? Because now more than ever, there are amazing counselors and healers, and there's so much help out there, that to help to assist you in your personal and spiritual growth, that there's really no reason to not want to make that effort to work on your own self and work through your trauma. And, it takes commitment just like anything else. I mean, if you were joining a gym, you'd have to commit to that to see results. I mean, it's like anything else. You do have to commit. And as you're healing the trauma, you're going to be facing some really dark aspects of yourself. But once you look at that part of yourself that's traumatized, then you're facing it, and it no longer has a hold over you. It no longer has power over you. And therefore you can begin to heal. It's just a part of you that has not felt loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the healing of humanity is imperative in order for us to set ourselves free from this grind that we're in, where we feel like, are we really free? Not really. We're like, we're living, we have to do certain things and it's repetition every day for most people, and doing the same thing and getting home and just getting tired, come home, scream at the kids, make dinner, try to get a bit of television in before going to sleep. It's not really who we are. We are so much more than that. And we need to find that part of us, reconnect with it, recognize it within us in order to override this very low, dense frequency. And, and that is how we set ourselves free, really.
Yeah.
And, people often are stuck in traumatic relationships or stuck in traumatic workplaces where, everybody's horrible to them. And that's, again, lack of self-love, lack of, believing in yourself and having confidence in you and trusting that, there are infinite possibilities in the universe for you to expand and move into higher places. If you are willing to take the chances to step out of the comfort zone, to stop complaining about, this horrible person's doing this to me, to say, I'm going to step out of this and I'm going to explore another avenue. As scary as that may be, it's going to be better than what I'm doing at the moment.
And just talking about revenge quickly as well, which is, again,
Do you like this subject?
well, it's only because I thought of something to add to it, which I think will be useful. Which is, I've mentioned in another episode, I'm reading a book called Sand Talk, which is wonderful, by an Indigenous author whose name I can't remember because I've got a terrible memory. But Google Sand Talk and you'll find it. It's amazing. In the book, he talks about this. I don't know if it's framed as being a game or a ritual or what it is, but what it is when two men are given these stone knives, and it's and the aim of the game is to cut the other person's back, right? Which is hard to. It's like you've got to cut their shoulders and cut their back, which is a hard thing to do. But the rule of the game is that any cut that you inflict on the other person, that when the game's over, you have to receive the same cuts onto your body.
Wow, that's a hard way to... Wow.
I know.
That's painful.
But if that's not the most perfect metaphor for revenge, I don't know what is. Whatever pain you inflict upon the other person, you're only inflicting it upon yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because when you're inflicting that kind of trauma onto some pain onto another person, you're fully in your traumatized self. Because, like I said before, in order to inflict pain, you have to be coming from a space of trauma. You're not coming from love when you're inflicting trauma on any sentient being. You're coming from a space of trauma, and that is not your true self. Your true self is the spark of divinity. It's infinite. It is part of the essence of great spirit within you.
Yep.
So the moment that you are still looking to inflict pain on anyone else in any other fashion, then you are still coming from the traumatized aspect of you. And that's what is going to fuel you to harm another sentient being.
So look, it's certainly a pretty massive topic, but hopefully there's enough there for you to, some food for thought about.
Yeah, a lot of food for thought, I think. You know, a lot of just recognizing, acknowledging, become aware of your daily, actions. For example, get up in the morning and just say to yourself, today I'm going to remain conscious of what I'm saying and what I'm doing. Remain conscious. And, when you remain conscious, you remain in a space of awareness of how you're dealing with your day. How are you dealing with the people around you or situations? Is it coming from a place of trauma and fear, or are you dealing with it with ease and coming from a space of love? This is how, the more we become aware and conscious of our daily activity and our daily interactions with other people, then we get a very close-up view at ourselves, a look at ourselves where we can recognize whether we're coming from a space of trauma or that space of love. And when you begin to do this, then you begin to recognize and you get to know yourself so much more deeply. And then you can begin to change that. Perhaps you're about to tell someone off and instead you take a deep breath and you kind of breathe out that, well, I'm ready to attack someone, and you go, no, let me zen out and chill, even if you're saying it to yourself. And you're not going to allow that person to have an impact over you. And whatever you're going to say to them is going to come from a space of love. If you need to speak to them, and trust me, they're going to just feel like, that's going to be so scary for them because they're screaming because perhaps they need to be loved. And when you're, kind of resonating in that frequency of love and you're sending that love to them, that can be the thing that makes them step back and go, I'm not going near this person again because it's too frightening. But when you're screaming back at someone, for example, then you get, you're both cycling in this trauma and you're both becoming very reactive to each other, and it just gains momentum as you go along until it gets out of control, and then it becomes almost like a game, especially I see this a lot with people in workplaces where then, every day they're coming in and they're angry. So what am I going to do to that person today? How the fuck am I going to, excuse the language, how am I going to get to them today? So, they're so caught up in this game that's all an illusion. Remember that nothing here is really real. The real is outside. It's our spirit. This is just a stupid game. It's all an illusion. And if you can recognize that only love, the only thing that's real here is love. And your loving actions. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else here is just a game. And the whole trick is see it as a game. Don't get caught up in it. Don't let other people influence you in negative ways or push your buttons. When you start to heal, people will no longer really have, that much power over you. And also, any sort of dark entities and things, that darkness lurking around, they won't have any power over you either, because you are in your own sacred space. You're in a space of love and you're in a space of inner peace. And it's really hard for people to break through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a big job to do, people. A big job.
It's not that hard.
No.
It's not that big.
But, we've got to heal that trauma. We've got to look into what forgiveness truly is, which is letting go. And, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, making peace with ourselves, with each other. And, and I know it's hard. Look, we all have people that really know how to push our buttons. And sometimes even your own family members who, are the people that you feel the most disconnected from, because they're so perhaps different to you. So much, you probably, and I see this a lot where you probably are so evolved and beyond, and you look at all their behavior and it's like, oh my God, I don't feel like I'm part of that family because they're all insane. And it is. It's perhaps because you have evolved to such a place where you've left them behind. But there's still that kind of moral obligation somehow where you've got to go and visit them occasionally or catch up with them occasionally. But the whole thing is, when you do, is not to allow them to kind of bring you down.
Yeah.
To just stand in your power and do what you can and let the rest let it be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground, Katerina. What do you think? Is it perhaps time to say goodbye for this week?
Be too much.
Too much? That's a lot.
Enough. It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But yeah, I think we've explained it really well, actually.
Yeah.
It is a big subject, but when you come to understand that being here is where you first became traumatized, then I think you start to get it. The disconnect from God, the disconnect from your true home, from your true sacred soul family. Then I think you'll start to get it from there. So go back to the beginning of where you've come from, and I bet it was a much more highly evolved place than this place, and so that was traumatic. That was the beginning of the trauma. The disconnect from love, from the essence of love, the essence of purity, of godliness.
I know that when I was a kid, I carried this kind of, I know it's going to sound a bit grim, but this profound loneliness and sadness with me, and I know intuitively it's because of that. It's from coming into this world and feeling traumatized about being, and again, you're not truly disconnected from God. It's just,
but it's such a distance. Because this is so low. That's such a high that it feels like it feels like it's far away, but it's really still within us.
But it can definitely feel like, it's a traumatizing event, as Katerina said, and. You may feel
traumatizing coming out of your mother's womb. Again, you're a little, this little soul, and you're in the safety of your mother's womb. Then you come out, and even birth itself, can be, it's a traumatic event sometimes for a baby when they're born. Especially in hospitals, you're born into this, coming out of a warm womb, and you're faced with these cold, bright lights
and traumatic for the mothers too. I'm a twin. My mother loves telling me how traumatic it was giving birth to twins.
Yeah,
I've heard it.
Really scared. And often the mother is frightened of, the whole birthing process. So, the baby's feeling the mother's trauma and the mother's fear. And the levels of trauma are endless.
Yeah. So we wish you luck. We wish everyone luck, because once we do this, it's going to change. It'll change everything.
Through the healing, through meditation, through deep prayer, through having perhaps a few hours of sustaining from food, and just being able to be in your own presence and just turning off distractions, being in a quiet space. Have you ever tried, if you have the opportunity, to just spend one day of no television, no phone, no radio, just being with yourself? Just one day. Has anyone tried that? It's really where you get to really feel and sense yourself, how you'll start getting fidgety and you'll be so tempted to go and pick up your phone or turn on the music. That's how you're going to find yourself, in those quiet spaces. It's hard to find yourself and feel your trauma and heal yourself in all the distractions. But when you can have a few hours to yourself, or perhaps you can have a day at home where you absolutely are in silence, don't speak to anybody, no television, no music, just be with yourself. Feel what's going on inside. Because often your spirit is there trying to encourage you to heal, and to help you. But you can't hear, you can't sense your spirit with all the distractions and, so when you actually spend quiet time with yourself, then you'll become more in tune with your true self, your divine self, that then helps you to heal.
There you go. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there on that note. Thank you once again for joining us on this episode. We hope you've found it interesting,
enlightening, illuminating, educational. And please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe.
Yes, please.
And if you like our stuff, please share it with others so that we can send and spread the message of love. This is the purpose James and I are doing this. There's no other reason really. We just want to do our part to help everyone else to heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
As
well
we
said.
are healing ourselves.
Yep, well said. Okay, well, thank you again, and we will see you again next week. Thank you, Katerina.
Thank you, James, and thank you, everyone. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
To gain access to private spiritual development classes, guided meditations, and live Q&As with Katerina, please visit www.patreon, that's patreon.com/The Australian Ghost Whisperer.